Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching our video series. I really appreciate it. Some people have sent us emails to release the next video. Yeah, as promised, in this video I'm going to explain how to build advanced HTML pages. So we learned about subforms, record summaries, and basic HTML pages in Zoho Creator. And now we are going to build an advanced HTML page. If you want to know what an HTML page is, watch our previous video. It's called part 1. You can watch that video to learn what an HTML page really is. I'm going to use this invoice template. I just built it. So if you want, I can give you the code, the HTML for this invoice template. But that is not really the point here. So this is the static invoice template, something like a Zoho Creator training book, Zoho CRM training book, and they all these line items, So the this is the from address, this is the from, and this is the customer detail. So something like that. All right. Okay. So now we have to replace all the static tags like invoice number, invoice date, reference, due date, amount, also these line items, as well as all this total and stuff, the customer, everyone. So everything with our farm details. So you have this invoice form here. If you open that invoice form, you have this customer name, the line items, and everything here. All right. So if we look at the invoice report, we have this invoice number as well. So what I'm going to do now is to replace our current template with the farm values. All right. Okay. So first of all, this is the invoice form. Okay. So this is the farm name invoice form. We can edit this because we'll be using data from this form to generate this template. All right. So we'll go from top. All right. So we'll have this sublime text open. This is the bootstrap CSS, the very first line, and then you have Google font that I just love and use it all the time. Okay, so first thing is okay, you want this. This invoice was created on March 2027 and some time here. So you want to replace this one. So before replacing this, we have to make sure we get the data from the farm. Alright, for that what we do is we get the invoice number, and we need to take the farm values and store it in a variable. All right, so let's call it invoice object. So I normally call it an object because it's going to store all the farm field variables here. So I call it an object. So here, this is the farm name. We need to query from that farm, and within this brackets we need to use the criteria. The criteria should be ID equals invoice number. Alright, so this should be the criteria to fetch the record. This is called the fetch records task. If you want to learn about it, you can search in help centers. So create a help center about fetch records task. So what we are basically doing is fetching record from this invoice form and passing the ID, so we will always get one record, which matters here anyway. So one thing though with fetch records is that left side variable as well as the right side variables are of the same type. By default, all the parameters we pass to a HTML view will always be string. So, but this ID, it's a 18 digit to like 22 or something, so it's a long integer number. We will still pass a number here, but this will be treated as a string field, something like this instead of this. All right, so we need to convert this that is passed here to this one. So how we do that is invoice number integer, something like that too. What we do is we convert it to a long. Long means converting any type of value to an integer. Alright, so this is a string. We are going to convert this into a string. Alright, there are a few problems we might experience when we don't pass the right value to this invoice number. For example, instead of passing 1 2 3 4 5 6, we pass 1 2 3 4 5 6 something like with a text in it. This will throw an error when it tries to convert it to a number. It should be all numbers inside. So we'll get to that later. For now, we'll consider we pass everything perfectly. Alright, so we can put the check and everything later. Alright, so now we get the invoice number as an integer, and we fetch the record from the invoice form and store it in invoice object. Alright, so now this invoice object will allow us to take data from this form, and we can access all these field records for that particular record. So for example, if I go to this invoice form report, so let's consider we pass the ID of this record. Alright, right click, open a new tab, when you edit it, so you will have this record ID right here. So we can get all this field information, all these line items, customer name, total, everything here. Along with that, we also have the system fields. Just search in help center if you want to know what a system field is, but system fields are like default fields at a time and all this stuff. So in this template, the template we use, we want to use the time the invoice was created, right? So we will use that. We will use added time. So that's when added time is when an invoice is when a record is created. So that's the added time. So we'll use that for this one. All right. So I go here. I will use. So now we have this template. Now we will replace it with. If you remember, we will enter the variables within this close tag, open tag, percent equals, and percent close tag. So between this, we will always enter the variable names. So the variable name is, it's called, what we need is, we need this added time. So it's called added space underscore time. I mean, I will explain. I will probably release the next video or something explaining all these fields and stuff. So for now, this is added space time, so you can use it if you have if you want to know how to, to get all the script values. You can go to this workflow, go to any workflow here, like on success, for example. You type like input dot I don't know, why do I not get okay, so I don't get it here. So if I really want to know all the fields, what I can also do is I can go to any report here, go to column properties, drag and drop this added time here. If I go to definition, there I will see all the script fields, all the scripts. Alright, so now I have this line items, added time, and all this stuff. So I can use this added time right here. Okay, that's what I did. So let me just show you. I'll just comment this part. This is an HTML comment. I'll just comment this part. Let me just show you how this looks like. So we pass the invoice number, Okay, so when I tried to save it, it threw me an error. In criteria, the left expression is of type big int, right expression is of type string. So that's line number 7. So it's 7. Okay, so you can guess we did convert it, but we did not use the converted uh, value. We instead used the string, so it should be this one. All right, so now it will save perfectly. Now if I refresh this invoice template, it will throw an error. We'll get back to this error later, but all I'm worried about is to pass the invoice number. So I will just pass the invoice number equals, I need to get the ID. To get the ID, there are multiple ways. I can right click on a record. I will have multiple options. I can click on right click on edit, click on open a new tab. Oops, alright, and right click on view record and open a new tab. So that will give me this record ID, okay, in the URL. So I can pass that as the invoice number. Okay, now if you say, it says the invoice was created on 13th Feb and the time. So this is the added time in Zoho Creator format. If you want to do the conversion to this type of text, we can do it, but that's a different topic which we don't want right now. Okay, and and now let's go to this invoice. All right, so on the left side we have this from address as our company address, and then we have this to address. So instead of this, we will just use this. We will just replace this John Doe with the customer name that we have here. Let me just open edit a new tab. So we'll use this customer name here. All right, so to get that customer name, we'll go to okay, here it is, John Doe. We'll just replace it with invoice objects customer name. So remember, it should be, if you are using the variable from the invoice form, we should tell the HTML page that we are using a variable first, and then we are going to use invoice object, which is this, the record from this form. And now we, instead of added time, we need to get this customer name fields record ID. How do I get that? I go edit the application, go to this form, click on this customer name, and right here I say this customer name. Okay, and I use it. All right, so now I copy it. So if you're wondering why I use Sublime text instead of editing it inside the Zoho Creator, you should see my other videos why I use it. Okay, so let me just paste it. So if I refresh this now, this should be replaced to John Doe. I mean, this should be replaced to ARBRC. All right, so yeah, you see this is ARBRC, but we don't want ARBRC there, so we'll use John Doe. That's it. So if I refresh it again, this will be John Doe, because that's the record, that's the customer name there. All right, next, invoice number. We need to have an invoice number. I mean, we have this invoice number, an order number field, so we'll use that in place of this invoice number. So how do I do that? I go to okay, here it is. Here is this 229. What do? I use this percent equals, and then so this one, this is open and close, and the invoice object dot, and I'll use the field name for invoice number. All right, and then we have this invoice date. We can still use that. We can still use added time. add time. um, Actually, there is a way to display only the date from a time. We'll get to that later, but for now we'll just use the added time. And then we have this reference number. We don't have a field for this yet. We can either have it or we can just delete this. And then we have this due date. So this is where we can write some additional, so normally the due date will be at least 15 days or 30 days or something like that. So for example, if the due date is 30 days from the invoice date, what we can do is we can just add 30 days. Alright, so added time plus 30 days. The amount due, so that is the amount due, that's the total here. Just take the total and use it. Alright, so this is the tricky part. You can write any type of one-line expressions between this open tag and close tag for your expressions. So you can write any expression. So what I'm doing is I'm writing 30 days. So if you want to store that as a formula field in this form and use that field in the template, you can also do that. Alright, so anyway, here it is. I'm going to store it. So if I refresh this page, I should see the invoice number, invoice date, due date, and amount due changing automatically. Alright, let's see if it's saved. Okay, it is saved. If I refresh it now, it will be 13 February. Invoice number is 1. You have this due date. If you look at it, it's like 30 days after February 13. So since it is February, it's like 30 days, right? So it has only 28 days, so it goes to 15. If you want to like make it a month instead of 30 days, you can also do it by adding 1 month, something like that. So this should also be good. Okay. It added 1 minute. That's strange. So let's use a small m. So Sublime Text, they occasionally ask this license question. We can just cancel it. I93. Okay, so actually what I can do is dot add month of 1. We can also use this. I'm sorry, I'm just taking this. It's actually good. So you try it with different functions, so you can get your right value. All right. So now this is 13 and this is 13. Only the month changes. Okay. So I mean there are like a lot of date functions inside Zoho Creator. In my future videos, I will also concentrate on data types and built-in functions for every field type, every data type, and then stuff like that. But for now, all you need to know is add month does add 1 month to this add time field. All right. Okay, the amount due is 737 as in the invoice. Now we need to replace this with our field, our farm record. All right. So anyway, so we have in the HTML, we need to identify where exactly it is. All right. So I have it like this is the first row. So you should also know how this works, So this is the first row, this is the second row, and then this is the third row. All right. So the idea here is to keep this a static value and then change this row's values. All right, so what do I do is I'm going to delete this static text from our HTML, and then replace this line with the uh, form values, but make it repetitive. I mean, make it repeat for every line item we have for this invoice. Okay, how do I do that? Is first I need to find out where exactly I have it. All right, so these are the rows I have. So this is the static row which we don't want to disturb. Okay, these are the two rows we have. So we are going to delete this row because this is a static row, and we are going to replace this row's value with our form field values. Okay, our form fields is this line item. So this is the tricky part in any HTML pages, the how you use subform value inside this. All right, so you have to make sure you don't you don't you know you don't mess with your HTML. Okay, that's why I always use sublime text, because it's so easy to identify just the part that we want to replace, because I can collapse whatever I don't want to like say, you know. So for now this row is, I know what this row is, so this row is the static text and this is the dynamic text. All right, and then we have these like the totals, what shipping and all this stuff. All right, so anyway, so now we need to replace this with the line items. So how I'm going to do that is, if you have watched my subform video, I would have explained what this means, you know, how to place a lookup and why should you place a lookup and stuff like that. And I don't want this invoice link one because this is not a bidirectional field, so I will just delete that field. I don't want that. And then you have this invoice link to, and that's a bidirectional field, and this is the field we will be using. And now I'm going to use another fetch record, but so fetch record has two types. So one is one line fetch. You can like use this as a fetch record, and then if it returns only one record, you know, so when you know it's going to return only one record, you can use invoice object dot. All right, the variable dot, because whenever you compare with id will always have, id is unique, so it will always have one value. So when you pass a value to it, it will always return 1 or 0 records. All right, so it will always be 0 or 1, the count, you know. So you can always put a dot and access it directly. But when it is going to be multiple records, all right, so now let's start writing a script here. Okay, you see how I'm doing it, because this is important. You should also do it this way. So you design your HTML first and then write your script later. All right, so you don't start, you know, writing scripts and then HTML, but first design your HTML and then include the script wherever you want it. All right, so anyway, so now we need like invoice lines object. Okay, so what we need is, we are going to invoice lines. So instead of comparing it with the ID, because we don't know that ID, we don't want that ID, because we need all the records, not just one record. So we are going to use this invoice link field. So we'll use this invoice link to be the ID of the invoice object. All right, so that will be invoice number int. Right, we'll use that right here. So now what we are doing is, we are going to fetch all the records from invoice lines. All right, so the difference between this and this is, whenever you compare it, whenever you use the write the criteria with the ID field in it, it will always be one record when you have this equal, operator. But when you are doing with it, when you're doing it with any other or non-unique fields, with the equal symbol, it is more likely to return more than one record. Alright, you should keep that in mind. And for this, instead of writing invoice object line dot, we have this item name. Instead of writing like this, I'm going to do it in a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate through all these lines. To do that, we have this for each records task. Okay, you can like search in Zoho Creator Help Center for how this for each records task work. So I'm going to do for each, okay, record in the form or the fetch variable. Okay. So this is the syntax for this. All right, so you have this for each and the variable name, like a local variable name, and then a fetch expression. You can either use this expression directly here, all right, or you can store that in a variable and then use it. I'm going to use that expression directly here. I wrote it here just so you will understand it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, instead of record, I'm going to, this is for our reference so we can use it inside this for each record. So invoice line object, for each invoice line object, this is our variable in invoice lines, where invoice length equals invoice number int. So here now I'm going to take this, the repetitive this block, this whole block, and put it right inside this, so it will repeat itself for the number of records. All right, so now I'll just take this, place it right here. All right, so okay, so I do this indentation. I mean, if you want, you can do it or just forget about it, but it's always a better practice. If you're a developer developing on Zoho Creator already, you will find this useful, because you should always do the indentation on HTML, because that's going to make your life so much easier when you're like debugging in the future. All right, anyway, so now instead of Zoho Creator training book, we need to use item name from this form. So we're going to use this item name. For that, what we do, we'll go here, open tag, percent equals percent, and close tag. And here, instead of invoice object, we are going to use invoice lines object dot this item name. All right, and then we have description. Okay, so what we do, we'll copy this, just replace this item name with the corresponding field names. All right, so this will be description, and then we have this quantity, okay, and then what do we have? Price. Okay, we have this line total. Oh, all right, so now I go here, copy it, go to my invoice. So if I refresh it again after saving the script, I will see the records from this records from right here. For example, for this, I will see test 1 2 3 4 5 and all this stuff. Okay, right here. So what I do, all I need to do is refresh it. You say test 1. This is a test description. Okay, so it's going to take time to master this subform writing or HTML page. It's going to take a while, but if you have any questions, you can always shoot us an email to zoho@arbrc.com. We will always help you. So if you have any questions, you can just shoot us an email. All right. So anyway, here, if you want to add this 15% VAT on the overall total, we can add it. If you want, if you have a shipping charge, you can either add these fields as form fields for the invoice form, or you can just leave it. So now we don't have fields for VAT or shipping charges or discount, but we do have this percent, so what I will do is, here we have this VAT 15%, so we need to add, so we have this invoice total, right? So we have this invoice total, so the VAT is on the total, so we need the 15% on the total. So what we will do, we'll multiply the total by 15%, and oops, there is a function called round, so which means you can multiply the total and add show only 2 decimal fields after the dot, two values after the dot. So that's 15%, and we have the shipping charges. This is a static $100, we can just leave it, and we have this discount 5%. If you want it, you can use it like this. If you have a form field, again, so if you want to store it in a form field and use it, you can use it too. All right, so now the total should be the actual total, right? So the actual total, invoice object total, right, plus this value, whatever this VAT is, right, and minus the discount, right, and the plus the shipping charges, which is 100. All right, so if I take this now and store it here, so if I refresh it, this is 837, this is 110, it doesn't seem right. This is 737, 15% is 110. Let's say, let's first add the shipping charge. This is probably a simple math error. So this is the shipping charge, and then we have the total, and then we have this VAT, and we have this discount. Okay, this is 5%. We need to use this 5%. So that was the problem. Okay, so now I go here. If I refresh it now, yeah, so this sounds about right. All right, so this is a printer PDF, HTML I have. So what I will do, I will just upload this script for this form, and also the DS file for this application, the overall application, in a GitHub page, and the link will be in the description. You can download it and use it. And if you have any questions, you can shoot us an email to zoho@arbrc.com. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll make sure we add more videos in future. All right, thanks.